Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is a fun video about a comparison of the Super Cessna 170 versus the Cessna 182 flying off airport. And first we start with dogleg. In this approach, this is the approach from the bridge. You have to do a right turn at low speed for the landing. In the Cessna 182 it was really challenging because you are doing a 110-degree turn at very slow speed at very low altitude. The angle of attack indicator helped a lot on this. Also the mini slip indicator I have above the dash next to the angle of attack indicator HUD. It also helped me keep coordinated at all times, which is very important at these very slow speeds, especially when turning. So of all the gravel bars I have done with the Cessna 182, maybe this is the most difficult approach. The gravel bars change every year after heavy rains. They can get shorter, longer, different shapes. So the comparison between the Cessna 182 and the Cessna 170 is after 1 year difference. So you can see how much it's changed in that time. The takeoff towards the bridge is also challenging. You have to be in the air quick and make a coordinated turn to the left. You cannot go high enough to above the tree, so you have to turn with the terrain. Here is a cockpit view. You can see the HUD for the angle of attack indicator, and next to it, to the front, is the mini slip indicator. So with this, I know exactly how much lift I got, and I also coordinated all the time. So this shows how good is the Cessna 182. I mean, if you can push it, you can do really difficult landings, difficult approaches into short gravel bars. It's an amazing airplane, and in this case, it is powered with a 280 horsepower P-Punk conversion. Now let's see the Super Cessna 170B. I'm taking off towards the bridge. It is much easier on this airplane because you are in the air quicker and you can do easily the turn to the left, always coordinated towards the bridge and following the terrain. Now let's look at it and hear it from the ground. Now a landing, you can see the gravel bar has changed a lot. I have to turn a lot more now. The part I used to land is covering rushes. Definitely it's a lot easier in the Cessna 170. For starters, it can approach at 10 miles an hour slower speed, so that makes everything a lot easier. This next gravel bar is in the Skycomish River, called Arrowhead. I think this is the shortest gravel bar I ever landed in the Cessna 182. But as you can see, it is a very capable airplane and it can do it, no problem. I'm approaching with 40 degrees of flaps and with power behind the power curve at the minimum speed possible. Again, the mini slip indicator helps me stay coordinated, and the angle of attack indicator helps me showing me how much lift I got. Anyway, that is something you can feel at very slow speeds. When you're starting to lose lift, you can also feel it. I'm trying to touch down at the beginning of the gravel bar so I can have enough room to stop before the end. You can see a brush to the right side. I just go over that. The brush is still there, and then when I do the landing in the 170B, you can compare how much shorter the 170B can land compared to the 182. For takeoff, full power, 20 degrees of flaps. I add 10 more for 30, which is the Sportsman STOL best combination of flaps for short takeoffs. Again, it shows how great the Cessna 182 is. This landing is really challenging in this airplane. Even the surface is smooth, it's a very short gravel bar. When the water is higher, definitely it is impossible for the 182. I'm approaching in the Cessna 170B. Also same technique, 40 degrees of flap, power, and try to land at the minimum speed possible. You can see I'm adding power and just barely pull on the yoke. I lift the nose with power. Definitely this is a lot more easy in the 170B, also because of the slower approach speeds, and I don't have to be worrying about rocks or small ditches or logs because I have 31-inch Alaska bush wheels tires compared to the 850s I have in the 182 and a 7 on the nose. With the Cessna 182 you always have to be very careful with the nose gear, big rocks, logs, obstacles, because that's the weakest part of the airplane. See in this video how much shorter the gravel bar is. The bushes are just at the beginning of the gravel bar, and it changed a lot that when I landed in the Cessna 182. Takeoff is also easier in the Cessna 170B. I have measured it and the ground speed is 27 miles an hour and I'm in the air. This gravel bar is also in the Skycomish River. Dump is the name. And you have a clear approach over a big gravel bar that is called dunes. It has a few obstacles. I never landed the 182 on this one because it's kind of undulated and I'm afraid that the nose gear can sink and I might be able to hit the propeller. So I avoid that one and landed on the next one, which is pretty straight and smooth. Here is an outside view of the landing in the Cessna 182. Again, it shows how capable 182 is. Definitely you have to be very careful with the nose gear when doing off-airport operations. Now we can see the landing of the Cessna 170B in the very same gravel bar. Here, how I add power just before touchdown, so it smooths the landing by reducing the sink rate. Here is a view with the GPS ground speed of the Cessna 170. Here you can appreciate how slow this airplane can approach and land. You can see the water is glassy in all the approaches on these gravel bars, and when we come to fly on these places, usually when it's very light wind or no wind. Definitely the Cessna 182 cannot fly at these speeds. Usually the slowest approaches I've done were at 52 miles an hour, 51 the most. You can see it, we are touching down at 41 miles an hour. Takeoff from this gravel bar is easy, there is no obstacles, you can just go straight following the rear and you have plenty of room for the takeoff. It was not an issue on the Cessna 182 either. Plenty of room for the takeoff and climbing out. But the Cessna 170B is in the air much quicker than the 182. At the time of making this video, this gravel bar in the Snohomish River had very shallow water at the beginning, so I opted to land the 182 in a little bit of water to make a splash. And this crawl bar is pretty easy. Usually it's very smooth and very enjoyable. For the takeoff, plenty of room, no obstacles. You have to do a turn to the right following the river, but there is no major issue. This gravel bar can get very small and very challenging too, but for the 182, this type of conditions, it was just perfect. Now we can see the same gravel bar in different conditions. It's much narrower now and shorter, which is not a problem for the Cessna 170B. Also, during this landing, the rocks were a lot more big than when I landed in the Cessna 182. These gravel bars change a lot, so you have to be aware after the rain. Do a very slow pass, check all the surface for logs, holes, bigger rocks, or any kind of obstacle that can take you by surprise. Especially for the Cessna 182, you have to be very careful. So this comparison, definitely for airport, the Cessna 170B is much better. Both airplanes have Sportsman STOL, micro aerodynamics vortex generators, empty propeller, alpha systems, angle of attack indicator, and a mini slip indicator. Both airplanes have upgraded engines. The Cessna 170B has 180 horsepower and the Cessna 182 280 horsepower. For off-airport operations, definitely the 170B is a winner. But for backcountry flying, Idaho or Oregon or mountain airstrips, I will say the 182 is better because you can carry more, go faster. These airstrips are not that rough, so it can land on all of them. And they are not that short, so it's not a challenge for the 182. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and see you next time. I'm glad I was able to compare those two airplanes in the same places.